Well, kind fellows and fellowettes, I'm back here at my secret lab, working on my circuit in the afternoon, in which I have good lighting. So, what I've discovered is that the water evaporates pretty readily. It gets warm in here. So, like any good battery maintenance, I'm not going to add substance, whatever I originally put in, salt and detergent. I will simply add distilled water. And I tested my oh uh so I'm going to do something differently. um I still have conductivity through the water and through the carbon rod, but I'm going to put a resistor at the top end of each carbon rod because I have suspicions that every aspect of this circuit has to have elevated resistance. So I put resistance um, in line with the capacitor, and then on the opposite side I put resistance in line with the neon bulb. So I got a resistor in line with the neon bulb, and I've got a resistor on the opposite side in line with the capacitor. They're both 10 mega ohms. And then so I'm going to put another 10 mega ohm resistor at the top end of this carbon electrode and the top end of this carbon electrode. Now I don't have to put resistances leading into the vessels of watery solution because I already have diodes. These diodes are pointing in, and these diodes are pointing out. Where is it? There it is. Out. Um, what else? And I'm in the process of wrapping. Where is it? Yoo-hoo! Where are you? There you are. I'm in the process of wrapping this iron floral insulated wire around the copper sphere. It's not going to be perfect the way it should be. First of all, the ping pong ball is a dielectric on the inner surface, which is not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be copper on the inside, followed by a dielectric layer, followed by an iron layer, followed by a dielectric layer, followed by a copper layer on the outside. I can't do that easily, and so I may flub up in that respect. I am noticing that the copper tape, due to the action of heat hitting the wall over here in that direction, the sun hits it in the afternoon sun, heating up this secret lab. Um, the tape, the adhesive comes undone, and then I have to keep pushing it down in various places, so um, it won't last forever. um, unless I put tape over it, painter's tape. But I keep changing things, so I'm in no position to make it permanent. Even the painter's tape wants to come up. Um, so that's where I'm at the moment. So I got two resistors to put into place. I have another copper sphere to cover with iron winding. And I'm using, as I wind it, I'm using copper tape to hold it in place. So that's kind of serving as an exterior layer of copper tape. I'll probably finish off with some great circles of copper tape, but this one still needs more windings around it. Um, anyway, that's the way things are going at the moment. So, this circuit is the power station, and it's designed to um, amass voltage. That's all it's supposed to do, and then convey it or transmit it via this mass of loop of iron wire to a receiving coil of iron wire that is hooked up its two ends to a load. Now, in the context of that sub-circuit, so to speak, that is electrically disconnected from this, therein lies the current that we need to see in conjunction with the voltage to give us a decent wattage, but not here. Here, the only thing we need to do is preserve against the loss of voltage by keeping it electrically disconnected from any load. I take measurements doesn't mean I intend to connect this to any load. because I want to see what's going on and try to, use intuition to try to figure out, okay, am I doing the right thing? And, look at the responses, blah, blah, blah. Um, so what we want here is voltage. Now we want a kind of potentiality of amp hours, but with no intention of draining it, because this is the generator here. And this, of course, is a temporary storage. The resistances are meant, and the diodes are meant to elevate the voltage. The neon bulb is intended to inject a certain amount of negative impedance into the circuit, although not much, obviously, unless it were to light up, which if we don't pre-charge this thing with 60 to 90 volts, it has no reason to light up unless this circuit can build up charge. I'm hoping it'll build up on its own, but it might take a while. But at least I should see some increase from one day to the next. So far, I have not. And that would show that, oh, sure, it's running, it's working like it's supposed to, because it's building up voltage, because it's not grounded to the earth, so it's a floating circuit, and it's not connected to any load that we intend to drain of its voltage by converting its voltage into current. So it's meant to be a stable backbone or supporting structure to the load. And in order to do that, it has to be electrically isolated from any load. That's what I'm assuming. I've seen it so many times in my simulations that I'm free to assume that is the case. That is, must be why the Ammann brothers did things the way they did. It must be for that reason. This must be one of those types of circuits that requires those parameters, those characteristics. But it is kind of weird, considering the way it's set up. I mean, we've got a PNP transistor over here. We've got an NPN over here because of the way the diodes are situated. We've got some capacitance going on in the liquid solution because of the presence of water. We've got some conductivity because of the presence of salt. And the carbonaceous detergent is hopefully to protect the electrodes to some degree. Now let's see. If I look at the electrodes to see if there's any damage, uh-oh, I see damage. Oh, I wonder if you can see it if I zoom in. I think the salt was a bad choice because I never got that result with an alkali. Do you see that? Do you see that? Where's my finger? Oh, do you see the damage right there? The green? That's copper sulfate. So the copper tape is becoming oxidized. And that means, oh, see the back side of this. Where's my finger? There it is. You see that green up there? So it is becoming damaged due to the use of salt, as opposed to the use of something more alkaline, such as, well, if I had added soap with detergent, then it would simply be an alkali in the presence of the detergent, along with the emulsified oils of the soap, instead of something corrosive like the chloride ion of salt. So I don't know, it was an experiment. I can replace things if I think there's something wrong, or if I get curious what kind of results I could get with a different recipe for these transistors. But I'm still at the initial stage, and I'd like to see something more than just millivolts. Well, so far less than 300 millivolts. I haven't gone above that yet. So if I got like 800 or 900, then I might become interested, to get curious to change things. Anywho, so I'm putting iron wrapping around the copper sphere to help reduce the loss of current, and hence reduce the loss of voltage at each spherical capacitor. Because I think that's what's happening, is that it's leaking out current and converting its voltage thereby. Of course, The neon bulb is helping to short out the two copper spheres to take their voltage difference down to zero. But with the presence of the resistor in line with the neon bulb, normally that's done to protect the neon bulb from overcurrent, but in my case, I'm doing it to try to protect the voltage of the two spheres, and maybe elevate the voltage of the neon bulb to make it more readily ionizable or more intensely ionizable of the gases inside the neon bulb. Because it will ionize to one degree or another, it's just a question of to what degree. Um, and to that degree, I get a contribution, positive feedback into the circuit. But if it's not enough to overcome various entropic losses, then I get nothing positive to show for my efforts. So efficiency does matter. It's not enough to simply, you don't get over unity for free. Um, not if the efficiency is way, way low, unless you can compensate somehow. Joseph Newman had extremely low efficiency of his circuit. He wasted energy unbelievably. But he managed to get over unity because it didn't matter. It was compensated for, mostly by his battery pack. Um, but he had a tremendous loss of current that he was not making use of, and thus magnetic field within the helium gas that was being ionized inside of his sewage pipe PVC, uh, made to look like permanent magnets, but were not the rotors that he replaced the permanent magnet rotors. So it all depends, on various factors, what kind of result you're going to get. Um, I don't have any battery pack feeding this, and I haven't initiated a charge across the neon bulb to get it to light up to see if it dissipates or sustains, um, because it should build up on its own anyway, which is why I'm in no great rush to charge this thing, because that's dangerous and more work. I just want to see some growth. If I see growth, then I know I'm doing pretty good. And so far, I haven't seen sustained growth. All I've seen is, oh, I've increased the sustained millivolts, but no growth of millivolts. So over time, as I let the circuit sit for several hours and then measure it again, if anything, I get elevated voltage in the beginning when I make a change, and then it drops, which is, conventional entropic inefficiencies at work dominating the situation. So it's a kind of a track meet race between efficiency and or coefficient of performance, if you prefer, or both, and entropy, because it is a race, and there's no question about it. It's a competitive struggle between the two. You don't get to ignore entropy. You have to consider it as your enemy, your competitive partner, if you prefer, that you are trying to compete against in a nice friendly game of who gets to sit on top of the mountain, of the hill, who's on top of the hill, king of the hill. Negentropy or entropy. Anywho, or negentropy. I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced. AI seems to pronounce it like it's a French word. Um, Maybe it is. I don't know. Anyway, enough said so far. I should add that I had a thought today that I may have to take out this capacitor and replace it with a Leyden jar filled with, um, I don't know, an alkali, I suppose, and two aluminum electrodes coming in, from opposite sides. Well, one on the inside and one, of course, on the outside. Well, I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I think I may have to do it similar to my two vessels on the right, only instead of copper electrodes and a central third carbon electrode, I may have to use two aluminum electrodes going through the vat of water, maybe using the same solution as the other two vessels, and thus, by way of that, incorporate aluminum into the circuit, because otherwise there's really no place for it. I haven't made a place for it. And thinking about the past, how would the Ammann brothers have done this? Well, aluminum oxide building up in the plates uh, does serve as a dielectric, but then so does aluminum. And so, unlike copper or iron, do not. And so, since aluminum uh, shares some similarities with other metallic substances, such as tantalum, that can exhibit dielectric properties, maybe aluminum was used as a capacitance or style component 100 years ago, um, but modified from the usual Leyden jar in which you put one electrode on the inside and one on the outside, maybe. But then glass is your dielectric. So, although if the inner electrode is aluminum, it could build up aluminum oxide. So, regardless of how it's configured in the geometry of the thing, you still end up with a solution of liquid on the inside. That's why it's a Leyden jar. It's meant to be filled with a liquid. In fact, Nikola Tesla, when he was up in Colorado Springs, he had wine bottles as his Leyden jars, and he had many of them in, let's say, a 20 by 20 array in a box, and he would put an electrode down the center of each, and then one on the outside, fill the interior with salt water, fill the exterior with salt water, seal it all off with wax, and then just above that wax line, there was an opening through, into the box, leading, that was the pipe, the end of a pipe, to allow the exhaust of gases such as hydrogen or oxygen or both to leave the box because it was sealed on top with a wooden seal or wax wooden whatever and vented to the outside of the lab. So there are all these variations to capacitance construction when you're making your own capacitors from scratch. And except for maybe the resistors, because I'm not sure what the Ammann brothers would have used for resistors, except it is well known that if you want to make your own resistor, you just take a pencil and you mark lines on a paper, a continuous line. It can be zigzag to consume less area on the sheet of paper. And now you've got your resistance. And depending on the length of your pencil line will determine how much resistance you have. So there are all these ways of making components from scratch, all of which was probably known back then. It's just that it's a lost art. And to be successful at replicating the Ammann circuit may require doing it their way instead of our way. You know, if we can be successful doing it their way, then we can consider, okay, how do I change this and still be successful? Because now we got a reference of success to judge by. Whereas if we fail, we may blame it on the Ammann brothers and call them scam artists, when in fact we did not do it exactly the way they did it. And so consequently, errors can creep into our replication efforts that don't belong there. But we don't know any better. So we blame the wrong source of the problem. And this is a long-winded way of saying what, or requoting what John Bedini would say often: don't do it your way the first time. Do it my way, the way I tell you to do it exactly. And he says adults never do. They're always changing things and then wondering why it doesn't work. But when he tells a child, the child never questions, never changes anything, and does exactly what they're told to do. And they succeed, while the adults fail. This was the case with a little schoolgirl motor. John Bedini coached her, and she did it exactly the way he advised her to do it without changing anything. She didn't have the mind to change it, and so she didn't make any improvements, but she did not have any error either. So this is a kind of an important thing that we take for granted as adults that can get in the way of our success. unbeknownst to our well-meaning efforts. Oh, I think I know better. And it's so automatic that we reason, oh, I can do something similar. I don't have to do it exactly, blah, blah, blah. And we think, whoops, it's okay to get away with it. No, it doesn't always work that way. So I'm suspecting I'm going to have to eventually remove that capacitor and replace it with an appropriate old fashioned style. Um, how did they call it? Condenser. Right. So the appropriate term was to call it a condenser, and it was usually a Leyden jar of one type or another, one configuration or another, and that might be what I may have to do. Because when I look for reasons, well, how come I'm not successful yet? That's one of the sources of error that I have to focus on. Other sources might be, well, maybe I don't have the circuit sophisticated enough, and so I am slightly making it more complicated with more components. But I also had originally left out several components, like the neon bulb acting as a spark gap or the capacitor. Um, so when I remembered that, I thought, oh, shit, I haven't even been doing it according to what my original simulations told me. When I had left out the iron loop and just done everything else, and I got explosive results, how come I left out some of those other portions of the circuit? Because I forgot about it, and um, I truly am not in the mood to strain myself in any way, shape, or form. So it's taking me several days now. I'm up to day, what is it, 15 or 16? Uh, of at least the videotaping. Actually, each videotaping sometimes takes more than a day. So I'm up to a few weeks, at least 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks. And it's slow go, but it's good. I like it this way because it gives me a chance to remember, oops, I forgot something, or oops, I need to do something different because it's not working. Okay, what do I do? What do I try? And so it gives me a chance to think things through. Anyway, enough said. Enough yada yada.